So we talked a bunch of times about taking some time to yourself. Like you need a rest day, you need a self-care day, you need a mental reset day. Sometimes the things come up where it's not planned. Like say you get sick or a family member is having some issues or
your kid gets sick, whatever the case, life happens, right?
yes, life happens. And there comes a moment where you have to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm not coming into work today. For depending on where you're at in the industry and where you're at in a certain workplace, that may be next to impossible, right? Or be very daunting. Like, oh fuck, I gotta call my boss today and tell him I'm not coming into work. And then you start having to have this mental battle of how you're gonna line the ducks up to justify why you're calling out.
And or then to make the excuse or the reasoning sound good enough that it's not like you're not like making it up or whatever.
Yes, exactly that. And it just goes without saying, like when you calling out, it's never something that you want to do, right? Unless like you're a piece of shit and you actually do that on purpose just so you can get the time off you want and get all the money you want. But we'll get into that subject a little later. But usually when you have to call out, it's not something because you want to do it. It's usually some kind of emergency or life happens, like MVP was saying. And vice versa on the boss's side, when someone calls out in your team is something you have to find a way to fill that gap. And then you got to make sure your team is on point with it to be able to fill the gap. Because especially with the way things are now, things are slowly turning back on. We've identified a lot of gaps in the time things were shut down. So it's very hard to flex when something's been spread so thin already. So from the boss's standpoint or from the leader's standpoint, that can be a challenge in itself. So when you hear stuff like, I'm not going to be here today, or I can't be here today, it kind of kicks you in the stomach a little bit.
Yeah. If you had a game plan, you're like, okay, we had, 6 flights and 3 ground test events scheduled for this evening. And I was banking on my entire team being here to cover this. And now somebody's calling out and the reason's pretty weak, and you're going, okay, I could really, really use you today. Like this stuff was planned out. Oh yeah, sorry. I just couldn't be bothered today or whatever. I didn't get good enough sleep. Cool. There's 5-hour energy drinks, coffee, like slam it all and power through like most adults. But what they don't realize, like they're leaving their team hanging. You're like, oh, okay, so now the team's got to cover extra work because you couldn't be bothered to show up. That's that in itself, the team will get you before the manager will. Like they'll beat you down before anything. But it's just one of those kind of things. Now there are some guys where like, hey, I see we're going to be a little light on work on Thursday or Friday. Is it cool if I take a half day at that point to go to the DMV or to go to a doctor's appointment? Or, hey, I scheduled a doctor's appointment on Thursday because it looks like we're going to be a little light on events, type thing. And that's cool. That's appreciative because that tells me that they've looked ahead and they've put some thought process into it. And yeah, we can cover without you that day. Whereas it's one of those last minute, hey, I'm not going to make it. I'm like, dude, we're kind of swamped today. It'd be super cool if you could just make it in.
Yeah. Now, granted, the environments we're talking about, everything's fairly scheduled. We kind of have an idea of what's going on already, and we have a semi-decent number of people that can cover it. It'll suck, but we have the ability to do so. We're not talking like something like one of those toxic environments where you have to show up all the time, every time. 1 minute late is 1 hour lost kind of thing. But again, going back, life happens. There's a legitimate reason. You have a reason to call out, but you have to beat these sort of barriers to get yourself the needed time the much needed time you need.
And it wouldn't even be so bad if like, hey, I'm sorry, I got to call out today. Some stuff popped up, and you don't have to tell me, right? If I'm the boss, you don't have to tell me everything because there's legalities with everything. I can't legally ask like, well, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like what you have going on in your personal life is your personal life. So That's fine. Okay, cool. But there are some guys like, hey, sorry, I got to call out, but let know whoever's got weekend duty that I got it. I'm going to make up my time.
Yes.
Oh, okay, awesome. Like that's cool, and that helps that like the team can't depend on you today, but they can depend on you another day. So it's forgiving, right? Because somebody else is like, man, I know I had to work the weekend this weekend, but so and so is going to take it so they can make up their time. Awesome,
Yes, and that's a very very good point to make up or to point to say the MVP is when you do have to pick up the phone and call from the person calling out, get to the point, like get to a point right away, because again, like what MVP said, as a leader, as a manager, I can't ask you certain things. So just get to it. You don't have to dance it around. You don't have to ask me how my weekend was. You don't have to ask me like what's everyone doing or build rapport through the phone. Like I don't need that. Just tell me what's up, like right off the bat, because like I need to know if this is something serious. I need to know like what, like I need to know my options quick as to how to fix it or how to address the gap that's now coming through because of the person calling out. And then keep it short, right? State your reason why you need to do it. Don't get into the details unless you're asked, right? And if you're unwell, just say, hey, you need it. It doesn't have to be like, I'm feeling sick today, or so-and-so is having problems. Just say, hey, I have some personal matters that just popped up. It was not scheduled. It was something I did not see coming. I need to take the day off. Simple as that, right?
Yep.
Now, what MVP was saying too is when you do have to request some time off, like have a plan. Like, how are you gonna solve this issue of you being absent, right? Like MVP said, like I called the weekend duty guys. They said they're cool with it, and I'll cover them the next time. Holy shit, this person's proactive.
Yeah.
No questions asked. Like, oh, you already figured it out for me? Check box. Take care of what you need to, man.
Yeah, like I said, 9 times out of 10, most of your leadership's going to be pretty forgiving, right? Because they would want the same forgiveness on them if they had to call out for whatever reason. And I've worked with places in the past where leadership didn't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
You're I don't care that you're sick, or I don't care that your kid's sick, or that whatever the case may be, or that you have to go to the DMV because they messed up something with your tags or whatever else. Like, that you're going to be here and you can figure that out in your own time. You're like, yeah, but I get here before the DMV opens and I get off work after it closes. Well, it looks like you can schedule it on the weekend, but they're not open on the weekend.
Yes.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's why, I try to be very lenient and like, okay, thanks for letting me know or whatever. Just thanks for one. I like to say thanks for not being a no call, no show. Even if your excuse is pretty weak, at least you called. Because then I'll have to wonder all day, like, where the hell is this person at?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one thing. At least if the excuses are even just weak or whatever else, okay, whatever. At least you called.
Yep.
But also, like I said, I want it to be. I want that same forgiveness to be given to me whenever life gets in my way.
Yes, and especially if you're like a manager, right? Everyone assumes that you can just come and go as you please. Surprise!
But you really can't.
That's not the case. Yes, exactly. But there are times too where it's kind of this implied notion as a manager, as a leader, that you have to be there all the time, which you don't, as long as the work gets done. That's the key phrase in all of this is like, if the work can get done and the work's covered, then take the time you need if you have it. And then especially as managers, like managers are like the worst of taking time off because they feel they have to be there all the time. Unless they're a piece of shit where they just come and go as they please, thinking they're king of the hill or some shit like that.
No, surprise. And even in like, even your own leader, your own team will be like, hey, it's slow today. Go home. Get out of here, man. And I'm like, and half the time I'm like, yeah, but there is stuff that I can get done today. And they're like, okay, but is it so much that you couldn't take care of it Monday? 9 times out of 10, no. But it's one of those where I'm like, hey, I'm here with you guys. So at least if anything pops off last minute, I'm here to support. And you don't have to feel like you have to shoulder all that. You know what I mean? But you also got to realize that you should maybe take that time. Like they're telling you, hey, we see it in your face. You look a little run down. Why don't you dip?
Yes.
I don't know. Everybody tries to be lenient with one another and respectful. And hey, yeah, okay, you're you ditched us today because you're a turd, but at least if you're going to cover the weekend, then we can forgive you a little bit. But there's always those individuals that are all about their me. I call them me monsters. You know, me. You know, they take their time off, and they're not willing to cover anybody else, and they're always looking for somebody to cover them on the weekend work, and they just don't care. They just, hey, you know, I don't feel like being there today, and that's really your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I could understand, like, if the work environment, the work tempo is so fast, or it's so stacked, like, you have no time to yourself. You don't even have a moment to even hear your own thoughts. I can understand that. But if it's like the work tempo is on pace, it's strenuous, but it's on pace, like it's manageable. If everyone kind of bands together and has a plan ahead, like they actually forecast work and they kind of planned it out. But if it's something where it's planned out, or we have an idea of what's going on, and there are moments where it gets pretty slow, and you have that one individual who just does not want to be there for selfish reasons, it gets highlighted very fast. And another reason why people don't question when you call out, because they understand like how much you contribute when you're actually at work, right? Like you're at work for 8 hours and you put in close to actual work of eight hours of work, versus like someone who's just there 8 hours and does like maybe 30 minutes worth of actual work. Like, so when that person calls out, I'm like, oh, okay, it's almost expected at that point. Like it turns into a joke almost. Like, yeah, what's the excuse today, right? Or what are they going to call out for this time? It's almost to the point where like it wouldn't be missed if this person was fired because they're never here.
Well, and that's exactly it. That's a good point you make there, Six, because there'll be sometimes like I almost don't even expect them to show up anymore, these certain individuals. So, you know, like we'll be sitting there at work with the guys who are there every day, and I'm like, all right, I got to figure out the weekend schedule because they dropped some stuff on us last minute. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, I got you guys and I got so-and-so here on the other shift or whatever else. And then they'll go, well, what about so-and-so? I'm like, who? And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot they were here. And, right. And my guys look at me like, isn't that sad? And I was like, it is sad. It is sad because they're here so little that I don't even count with them anymore. But I think these people bank on that. Again, back to the me monster. Cool, if, you know, I can show up whenever I want to, but I'm so unreliable that that they don't count me for anything additional. But I'm reliable enough that they can't get rid of me.
Yep.
Like there's people work the system, man. They know how.
Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned this one story a while back. I had a commanding officer once where if it was a Friday before a holiday, we do like our 7 a.m. task or whatever the case may be. We take a roll call and have our little morning briefs or whatever. And you'll come up in front of all of us, have all of us together, and you'll say, the time is now 7 o'clock. By 7:15 or 7:30, I want this parking lot empty, gone. I want to be the last one out of this building, and I want to see an empty parking lot. And we're like, what? Is he serious? You know, like the first time he said it to us, like, is he serious? And here comes 7:15 or 7:25, and he's like, why the fuck are people still here? You have 5 minutes. Get all your shit packed up and get the fuck out of here, or all of you are working this weekend. And I'm like, whoo, ninjas, we're all freaking gone, man. And he kept to his word, man. And I think that's what it was too, is like when someone like really values your time off and he says, you will get out of here or I will make you work. I'm like, oh shit, okay, we're gone. Shoo. And so going back to the call out time is offer solution to your absence, right? Figure it out and see how you can make up for it if you can. And then let them know where you can be reached, right? Or how you can be reached. Like, I'm really sick right now, or I have some personal matters. I have my cell phone on me, or I'm going to be admitted to this hospital, whatever the case may be, this room. So should anything happen, you guys know where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
Like if this is going to be a long-term thing or whatever, and you guys want to visit or some shit, right? Or some kind of matters where you have to know where I'm at, then, you know how to find me.
Well, and also, if you provide that information, it added some validity to your call out reason. But it also turns into the point now where it's almost like you're the little boy who cried wolf. So you could even have a legit illness, or you could have been in a car wreck, something very serious, right?
Mhm.
And we're all going, okay, I bet. You know what I mean? Like, hey, sorry, I'm not going to make it in. I was in a car accident this morning. I'm not going to make it in. Or are you okay? Oh yeah, I'm fine. Where you're like, well, how bad was it? Like, is the car totaled? Is the but it could be something serious, and everybody's like, yeah, I bet he ran into his own trash can and called it a car wreck, and it's not coming in now.
Right. Oh yeah, I totally feel, and that's a good point too. Like, you use so many excuses that when you actually legitimately have one, it's like, I'm positive that's exactly what happened.
And I bet that's exactly how it went down. Yeah.
Right. It's sad, but that's so true. Like, and that's with pretty much anything. But when you abuse the time off like that, or you abuse your allotted time to take care of yourself, the people's sympathy run out, and that's just human nature. Like, okay, I like you said, I bet that's exactly how it went down. Totally sure, right? Until you hear that view in the hospital, like, oh shit, that really did happen. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, then you kind of feel bad as a human, but like before, the excuse was my nose is running today. Yeah. Well, I guess you better go catch it on your way into work,
Right. And
I didn't sleep very well, so I'm not coming in.
Oh.
Well, do what the rest of us adults do and slam some coffee and an energy drink and power through,
So we've actually had bosses say something to us when we actually had a reason, right? Like me, for instance, I was on the verge of having my own my first kid at the hospital. I'm like sitting there and my phone's getting blown up by work. I'm like, where the fuck you at? Why aren't you at work? Like, I'm having a fucking kid, dude. Like,
you've all known this.
Yeah.
It's not like 9 months. You've all known this.
Yeah. It's not a surprise. Like, I've only been going to these appointments and I've been telling you, why is it a surprise now that today's the day? Oh, I get it. It's because tomorrow's Monday and or tomorrow's a hard work day and you expect me to be there. No, I'm going to be here with my damn kid who I just seen pop into this world for the first time,
Yep.
And you and I were talking about this offline. Like, we've heard of one particular group of leadership where they straight up told us to our faces, are you having the kid or is your wife having the kid? I'm like, the fuck does that matter?
Yeah, what is that? Yeah, it hit you so hard. It was almost like a sucker punch where you just stood there and took it and didn't respond because you couldn't believe it just was said to you. You're like, I had to have heard that wrong. You know what I mean?
It's like, I know you did not. They start. It's almost to the point where like they're challenging your character, or like you said, like a sucker punch. Like, this, I did not hear that correctly. You say that one more time, please. And then they double down on it. Like, well, can she drive? Well, if she can drive, then she can take her damn self. You're coming to work. Like, fuck, I am.
Yeah, and you kind of like, so we've talked about being the call out, but this is being the person on the receiving end. What kind of sort of monster is that when somebody's having their kid, especially a first kid, where it's like, I don't, sucks to suck. I guess you'll see the kid whenever you get home after work. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you there? That's when I always ask, like, so were you there for all your kids? And just out of spite, they're like, no, I wasn't there for any of my kids' births. Cool. That probably explains why you're divorced now, but right on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just stupid. That's really just stupid to be that way,
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. And then right. So when you get that kind of excuse, right? Because you and I have been on the receiving end of excuses like that, from management. Excuse me, I should specify that we're the ones giving the reasoning, and management's the one responding. And you're like, what happened in your life to turn you this way? Like, why would you give me a response like that? I've done nothing to incite this anger out of you. I'm here every day that I'm supposed to be. I'm legit having a kid today. Yep. You've all known about it, but it's bad on the management because after that, you're like, I don't give a shit. Like, hey, we need volunteers for this weekend. Sucks to suck, nerd. Find somebody else. I'm not doing it. I'll have an excuse every time at that point. Because if you're going to tell me no for a legit reason, then even if I don't have when I don't have a good reason, I'm still going to give you it because you're going to give me the same response no matter what.
Yes, that's a good point you brought there. So then what does that do to the rest of the team, right? Like, so you have one individual keeps calling out and calling out and calling out, and you keep entertaining it. This is from the manager standpoint. And then you got like a good worker or a good employee, fantastic one, does what he or she needs to do, puts in the work, is very essential to your operation success. And they have a problem, right? They need to call out. But you've used them as your star running back for however long, and then when they say, "Hey, I can't be here today," you start questioning them, the validity, right? I don't know if anyone's ever experienced this, right? Where you're doing a great ass job, and then when you finally cash in on your time off, they say, "Oh, we can't do it. We need you here. You're too essential," right?
Yeah, and you say, "Well, it's not my fault that you depended solely on me. I brought it up to you that hey, give me somebody else that you think should learn what I'm doing, or hey, I think so and so has shown promise over here. Put them with me so they can learn what I'm doing. So we're not operating on a single point failure system here." And they go, "Nah, fam, we're good with that. Go ahead and just keep doing what you're doing." Yeah, and then like you said, then when that person finally has to call out, they're like, "What the hell? You're not a company man. You're not a team player. You don't want to do this." And you're like, "Are you shitting me? Yeah, I've been here 7 days a week for the last 3 months."
Yeah,
and now I need to actually take some time to get like real life things done that I've been putting off forever. Yep, and I'm the bad guy for it.
And then that turns into like what you were saying earlier, where like, well, I gave you legitimate reasons. I'm doing great things here, or I'm not doing. I'm doing enough things to help you be successful. And now that you coming at me all sideways, I'm just gonna come up with every excuse possible because I know what your answer is gonna be. So now it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You don't want that kind of employee, but since you want to block that, you kind of created one in return. I think we talked about that in a previous episode where you kind of manufacture your own headaches.
Yeah. You're the creator of your own problems.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it can be frustrating on both ends, right? It can be frustrating as a manager to keep getting terrible excuses and week after week and even multiple times a week. You know what I mean? But then on the manager side, when you have a star employee and they're like, "Hey man, I'm sorry, but I have to get this stuff done today. I've put it off too long." Right. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get a fine, a ticket, whatever the case may be. I really got to get this done, taken care of. You say, "Well, that's not fair. That's not fair to me and this company."
Yes.
Well, if I don't take care of what I got to get done, I'm not going to be able to get here to continue doing my job for you.
Oh, damn.
It's a valid excuse though. Like if I don't take care of, I'm going to use the DMV because that's one you hear quite a bit. Because especially here in California, dealing with the DMV is just not easy.
Yeah, it's not fun. Not fun either.
So you have to almost go and set aside a whole day for it.
Yep.
And that's no joke. I mean, that's legit. You will have to set aside a whole day for it. But people are like, you have to go to the DMV. You can't figure that out on the other time. Like, look, I scheduled an appointment a month and a half ago. Like, I have an appointment. I'm going to go get this taken care of. If I don't, my tags are now expired. And if I get pulled over, that's a hefty fine. And my car may get impounded. And then now I can't get to work. So you either lose me one day today, or you're going to be coming to pick me up to take me to work from here on. I don't know what to tell you.
Yep. And then vice versa, like with, like, say if someone's sick, like, "Oh, sorry, boss, Kevin, I'm fucking coughing up a lung." Like, I've legitimately heard responses like, "Well, that's why God gave you two." I'm like, what? No, I don't want him here. Get him the fuck out of here.
That's exactly it too. Where I had a guy just the other day, and he was like, "I'm not feeling so good," and I was like, "Go, bye, see ya."
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, get out of here, man.
So get out of here, whatever. This person's never really sick, so that's why I'm like, get out of here. But we have somebody that calls out once a week because they just don't feel good. There's always some sort of illness, man. Like this person, I can't believe they're still alive and walking with all the illnesses they supposedly have. but when so one day, talking to him on the phone, hey, I'm feeling sick again. Oh my gosh. All right, man. Well, it was just a busy day and we could have used all hands. I was like, all right, man. Well, thanks. Hope you feel better. Bye. And so the individual came in the next day, still feeling like shit, still looked like shit. And you're sitting there like dying at the desk and coughing and sneezing over everything. And I was like, oh my God, why are you here? He's like, well, I've called out 3 days this week and I didn't want you guys to think I was joking. I'm like, dude, don't come and infect the rest of us. Like I told you, bye. He's like, well, it sounded like you guys didn't believe me. Whether we believe you or not, like, don't fucking come here if you're this way,
Yeah. If you're legitimately sick, don't bring that shit here.
Yeah, don't bring that here. And I was like, now the rest of us are going to get whatever god awful third world disease you're tracking around.
And then vice versa with the other guy who calls in all the time because he's air quotes sick or he's supposedly sick. That kind of reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where like Mr. Burns get diagnosed that he has every disease ever, but but the only reason why he's never gotten sick is because like they're all trying to shove their way through the door and then they kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah, they're all fighting each other.
Yeah, there's like, see, this is your immunity, and this is every disease available, and they can't get through the door because there's so many of them. Like that's awesome. That's him, right? Like all it takes is one to sneak through, and then the rest of it just come flooding in.
Yeah, it's frustrating, like I said, but it's to the point that if you call out all the time, it's the little boy who cried wolf. You're like, oh, okay, here we go again. Yeah. Well, I'll show you guys. I'm going to come in sick, homie. It's legit this time, but the next time it might not be, like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yep. So for people that are the ones calling out, we would say to you, if you legitimately need to take some time off and you legitimately have to pick up the phone and call your boss, just keep it short, simple, to the point, offer for a solution if you have one, and it doesn't hurt to apologize, but at the same time, like just be short, sweet, to the point. And if you can offer a solution to your absence, by all means, and then give a way for someone to reach you, because
and two, explain what you had going on your day that self, right? If you're the boss, also explain what you had scheduled for that day. But also if you're an employee, like, hey, boss, just to let you know, like I'm out sick today, but I did have a meeting scheduled with these groups at this time to discuss this subject. So-and-so has been sort of working with me on that so they can cover that in my place. Or if you can, here's the latest or whatever. So
yeah. And it's almost like that day went not missing a beat, if that's a way to say that.
Uninterrupted.
There we go. That's it. Damn, man. I'm having a bad time of English right now. Right? So like, but what that does is it builds that reputation that you're still helping even when you're not there, right? It keeps that reputation like this is something that just sprung up. It's something that wasn't a pre-existing condition, but I'm helping in some way or another. It builds that relationship that you're not bullshitting when you need some time off. Now, if it's something where you're overstressed and whatnot, I mean, there's different avenues for that as well. But we get it. There are days where your mental capacity just reaches its max tolerable limit, and then you're kind of like, all right, I need to pump the brakes before the real shit starts happening.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, don't glorify the burnout, right?
Yeah.
So some of what we're talking about today probably does sound that way, is that we're glorifying the burnout. Oh, so-and-so's sick, but they're saying, doesn't matter, show up anyways. No, we're not saying that. Like, we're also saying, we've talked in the past, take the time you need, get that mental reset. But if you need a mental reset once and twice a week, every week, might need to reevaluate your approach. You know what I mean?
Yes. And then that's coming from the managers or the leader standpoint. Like if you have a legit worker and you see they're burning out or you see that they're sick, like, yo, you need to leave like today.
Yeah.
Like today.
Now, vice versa, right? Hey, the burnout's real. But if it's the same person every week and calling out once and twice a week, that starts to look a little fishy when nobody else on the team is running ragged, right? So if you look at your team and 90% of them look like beat dogs, maybe I need to reevaluate what I'm doing as the leadership. But if everybody else is like, yeah, man, we're good, handle it fine, we got just enough to keep us busy, but we're not overtasked,
Yep.
We're plugging through. Okay, so it's just homie over here that needs some addressing, right? And now maybe there's something going on in their personal lives that they don't want to talk about, but it's affecting work. But eventually you hope as that individual says, look, no matter what's going on in my personal life, it's now starting to affect my work. I have to work. I got bills to pay or whatever else. Like I'm just going to have to power through it today.
Yep.
And if you feel open enough to talk about it with your boss, like, hey, I don't want to give you all the details, but things in my personal life are kind of going sideways right now. I'm here, but I might have to step out every so often and take a phone call or whatever. Gotcha. No worries. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, hey, you mind if I take an extended lunch today? I'm just going to go sit in my car and stare at the sun for an extra 20 minutes. Yeah. You do you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's all based on like you're as a manager, right? You got to observe the environment and see what's going on. And sometimes that person who's constantly calling out, that might have been a personality change for them. And that's something that you need to approach in whichever way is most appropriate, because, we can only ask or demand certain things. So handle that as appropriately as possible. So don't just automatically assume, well, this person's a piece of shit because they're calling out all the fucking time. But who knows? Maybe they're just doing that because like what MVP said, they're having some life issues they just don't want to bring up, or they used to be a stellar performer and then all this started happening and it just kind of snowballed its way into like, there's no way out of this. I'm stuck in the pit and I'm just here now. So, and we've seen some individuals like that too. Like they were just amazing workers, amazing. And then something happened and we just saw an immediate personality shift. Like, yo, what the fuck is going on? But there was such a rush of new people coming in that everyone just kind of blew past him and just said like, oh, he's just a piece of shit now. Or he or she's just a POS. I'm like, hold the fuck up, right? And no one decided to address it until an incident happened. I'm like, oh, this was going on. Well, why didn't you tell us, right? Then that turns into like the coulda, woulda, shoulda stuff. And by that point, you're well past the point of action for that one. But again, for if you're calling out, it's a reason. Just be upfront, be honest. Give a solution if possible and how to get reached if possible. And if you were working on something and someone else was an alternate in this, please bring that up too. And then the
one part of this article I find interesting, it says, providing, you mentioned Six about being brief and all that in your explanation or your reasoning. But it also says, no reason to provide an explanation, especially if you're a person that does not have a track record of calling out, right?
Yeah.
But this article does say, if you feel the need to give an explanation on missing work, wait until you're back at the office and speak with your team leader or the manager. Then I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah, you don't have to give it to me over the phone. Hey, stuff's going on and I got to stay here and take care of it. Understood. Have a good day. Hope things get better or whatever. And then, but coming on the back end and just to follow up, hey, I just want to let you know this is X, Y, and Z reasons.
Yeah, it's wild, right? Like that whole follow up and the communication piece, it sets up that relationship in such a way where like you're not just trying to take advantage of the system. As a manager, as a leader, man, like that's like, wow, this person's really on point with this, right? Or okay, that explains a lot. Now I have the notion, or I have the idea of what's going on with this person, right? So like you're already starting to pre-plan things of how you're going to help them solve it. Like what do you need to flex, what you need to do, whatever the case may be. But you have that now versus just, automatically assuming, and then the person just doesn't help the situation by assuming and just end up making it worse. And then kind of going back to that other person, no one assumes anything better until something bad happens. You know what I mean?
Yep. I agreed. Now, here's another interesting part. It says depending on the type of emergency, you may also offer to work remotely. Now, I know in my shop, that's something we do where guys are, say, hey, I'm sick. I got to call out today. But I am going to log in on the computer at home and knock out some training I have coming due. So once I'm better and well, I don't have to take time out of my original work day from more important projects to knock out some training or whatever else. Or you can say, hey, I can work remotely. Is there anything, I can do for you from while being at home? Actually, yeah, I can send you these graphs, and I need you to enter the data points into our SharePoint tracking database, or whatever the case is. Like, yeah, I got some stuff you can do. It's not anything you got to apply any real brain power to. So if you're sitting there waiting on contractors to fix the burst pipe in your apartment, then okay, you can sit there and it's nothing you have to really focus too hard on. It's just number crunching.
Yep.
But that's helping me, and you're also being able to be there to do what you got to do as well. And you can still charge your time, right? You're actually not taking time off. You're still being a valued member of the team.
Yes.
Which is good.
Yep. And especially with new mechanics, that might be a way to go about it, right? Majority of work is hands-on shit, but you got a whole slew of classes that you need to do, be it online with the FAA or some shit like that. Hey, I can't come in today. I'm feeling kind of down, but I might be able to stare at a computer screen for 15, 20 minutes. Cool. Here's your you're okay to telework. Just knock out some mandatory training from the FAA or some shit like that. Right. Mm-hmm. Air quotes, you're working. Right.
Or you could say, hey, one thing that always needs revamped is existing training.
Yes.
So especially if you're somebody who's got a little bit of experience, you can say, hey, I'm not feeling well today. I'm not going to come in. But I did notice that I'm noticing on the floor, a lot of guys seem to be, struggling in this area. And I kind of reviewed our training for that area, and it seems a little weak. So I've been on the side working this set of training slides. Do you mind if I work those slides, try to finish them up today, and I can still charge my time? Oh man, you're trying to do something to better everybody else in your team? Yeah, please do. Please, if you can, please knock that out.
Yeah. And there's so many ways around it, especially if working remotely is an option. Even as mechanics who majority of their time is just using their hands. There's so many different things that go on in the background that you can be a part of that doesn't involve you having to physically come into work if that option's available to you. Okay, keyword if. Because there's some places that we've known where the only thing you can do is come in and get dirty and greasy. And if it's not that, then you're not getting paid. So we totally understand that part. Final thoughts with any of this, MVP?
I'll just leave it with one word: communication. Positive communication. I guess that's 2 words.
That is 2 words, but very well said. And that's the key phrase in all of this is just the communication piece. And then when you're able to communicate and show your work for it, your reputation builds that you're not just taking advantage of the system, that you're actually caring and doing what you need to for both the operation success and your team members. Because everyone,
that even when you're not there, you're still a contributing member to the team.
Yep. And everyone has their days where they burn out and they're just not feeling right. It happens. But if you're able to give a little bit or help relieve some of that stress, then everybody benefits in the long run. And then it'd be up to the leadership at that point to give you guys that much needed time off as needed on top of what you already have to get that mental reset, as MVP said. If you guys have any experiences with this, with calling out what are some of the best excuses? What are some of the worst excuses you guys heard people say about calling out? Because we've heard some pretty wild ones. I'm gonna be honest. But what have you heard, or what have you heard someone give? Let us know in all the social medias. Let us know in email, whichever way is easiest for you. And then we might, if we get enough of these, we might actually just do a react episode about it. Like, wow, this is pretty funny.
Yeah, those would be good laughs, actually.
Please do. That'd be funny. Let us know on the comments. Let us know in whatever way is easiest for you. And on that note, thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, everyone.
We'd like to take this time to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to continue to make episodes, maintain our gear, and create merch for all of our listeners, with special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Ryan Freshour, Dan Schubert, Jenny Dignan, and the ladies of the Dick Talk and Mimosas podcast. Thank you all so much for your support and patronage. Visit our shop at cancelformaintenance.com and grab some swag to show off both your support for us and your prowess as an aircraft technician. If you have ideas for the show or you'd like to be a guest on the show, visit our contact us section and send us a line. We will do what we can to get your ideas or yourself on the show. You can also follow us on social media, such as on Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, Instagram at Canx, that's CANX for Maintenance Podcast, or on Twitter at CXMX Podcast. Check out some of our affiliates like Rockwell Time, where they make both rugged and classy watches to fit your lifestyle. Use the code CX4MX and save 10% off your purchase. Support us on Patreon. Our patrons get exclusive perks such as access to our Discord, discounts and early access to merch, special patron-only episodes, and so much more. Thank you again so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.